The wind howled across the jagged lunar ridges, carrying dust that sparkled like fractured starlight. In the shadow of a long-abandoned research outpost, an ancient human crouched low, his sharp eyes scanning the gray horizon. For centuries, he had roamed these craters alone, studying relics of humanity long gone, surviving on ingenuity, patience, and a curiosity that bordered on obsession. Tonight, however, curiosity had a new target. He first noticed them as fleeting shadows, small, agile figures darting between jagged rocks. At first, he thought them stray lunar creatures, yet their movements carried an eerie intelligence, a subtle symmetry that only a human, or a wolf, could possess. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped closer, careful to remain downwind. 6 figures emerged from the crater's edge. Their fur gleamed silver under the pale moonlight, faintly luminescent against the barren landscape. But it wasn't their beauty that froze him, it was the way they looked at him. Not with fear, nor ignorance, but with a calculating awareness. Eyes sharp, unblinking, and, dreadfully familiar, their gaze carried the unmistakable signature of survival instincts honed for a predator's world. The human froze. Memories, long buried in the recesses of his mind, stirred. Ancient texts he had studied, fragments of legends, tales of wolf spirits and lunar clans, suddenly seemed less myth and more warning. These were no ordinary creatures. They were wolf girls, lost and vulnerable, yet formidable beyond his expectation. A sudden movement among the 6, a subtle flinch, made him realize they were scared, but not of him. Something else was out there. The hairs on his neck stood up. He had lived long enough to recognize the scent of danger even when the danger itself remained invisible. Then came the sound, a low, guttural growl carried across the crater floor. It wasn't far, but it was enough to make his heart race. The wolf girls stiffened, their ears twitching in unison, fur bristling. He watched, mesmerized, as the tallest of them, a silver-coated girl with a scar across her left eye, crept to the front, placing herself between the others and the unseen threat. He knew then that this was no ordinary predator. It was their mother, or someone like her. A wolf so cunning and ruthless that it had driven these girls into exile. His mind raced. If he moved too quickly, they would flee. If he moved too slowly, whatever hunted them would strike first. Choosing his moment, he knelt low, dropping a small metallic container from his pack with a soft clink. The container rolled slightly toward the girls, a harmless offering. Slowly, he spoke, his voice calm and measured. "I'm not here to hurt you. I can help." At first, they didn't move. Then, curiosity overcame fear. One small girl, barely older than a child, padded forward cautiously, sniffing the container. She hesitated, ears twitching, before glancing at her siblings. One by one, they edged closer, tentative, almost imperceptibly. It took hours for trust to begin forming. He offered them scraps of preserved food, spoke in soft tones, and observed their behavior. Each girl was different, one fearless, one timid, one skeptical, one unusually clever. Yet beneath their differences, he sensed a shared trauma, a memory of violence, and a bond that only siblings, or pack members, could hold. As the first pale light of lunar dawn crept across the horizon, he allowed himself a rare moment of hope. Perhaps he could protect them. Perhaps he could teach them to survive again. Yet the shadows still lingered, dark and watchful, whispering that their mother was near, relentless, and patient. For the first time in centuries, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Not for his own survival, not for knowledge or curiosity, but for these 6 lost girls, scattered by fate, hunted by blood, and in need of a protector who understood both the mind of a human and the instincts of the wolf. And somewhere beyond the ridge, the growl had returned. Louder this time. Closer. The hunt had begun. The pale lunar light stretched across the craters as the ancient human prepared a small, sheltered space among jagged rocks. Using scraps of metal, tattered fabric, and remnants of old human technology, he fashioned a makeshift den. It wasn't much, but it was safe enough for now. The 6 wolf girls watched silently, their silver fur gleaming faintly in the dim light, each reflecting a different shade of fear, curiosity, and defiance. He knelt to arrange the scraps of food he had brought, a mixture of preserved protein packs and crystallized nutrient bars. "Eat," he said softly. His voice, calm and deliberate, carried the authority of someone who had survived countless dangers, yet underneath was an unmistakable warmth. At first, the girls remained motionless, ears flicking, tails low. The smallest of them, barely more than a child, took a hesitant step forward, sniffing the offering. When she dared a bite, the others followed slowly, one by one. He watched them carefully. Each had unique movements, different reactions to the food, to his presence, even to the pale lunar wind brushing across their fur. "This way," he murmured later, gesturing for them to follow as he led them to a shallow cave, hidden beneath a jagged ridge. "It's safer here." They obeyed, not out of trust, yet, but from instinct, recognizing that he might be useful. Once inside, he began to observe them individually. The tallest girl, with the scar across her left eye, paced restlessly. "You're the leader, aren't you?" he said quietly, as if speaking to himself. She flicked her tail but didn't respond, her eyes wary. The timid one stayed close to her, peeking from behind the rocks. The clever one, her gaze sharp and calculating, seemed to analyze every scrap of material he had laid down, examining the patterns of the cave walls as if mapping the terrain. "They're survivors," he thought. "All of them. Strong, clever, but scared." Hours passed. Slowly, the girls began responding to his presence, not with trust, but with cautious curiosity. He showed them how to test the strength of the rocks above the cave, how to detect hidden drops, how to move silently to avoid detection. They mimicked his actions, sometimes clumsily, sometimes with startling precision. One evening, as they crouched together around a soft glow of a salvaged luminescent crystal, he spoke about the world beyond the craters. Not in lectures, but in fragments, stories of other humans, tales of the old cities, and the legends of the lunar wolf clans. The girls listened, rapt, absorbing every word. The clever one tilted her head, asking the first question. "Where is she?" The question was simple, but it carried the weight of fear. He didn't answer immediately, letting the silence stretch, heavy and tense. Finally, he spoke. "She'll come. Your mother, or whoever sent you away. She won't stop. But we'll be ready." The timid one shivered, pressing close to the silver-scarred leader. The small child whimpered softly. Even the clever one's tail drooped. He realized the truth. These girls had survived together, but they had never truly been safe. Not until now. Over the next few days, the bond deepened. He taught them to recognize the subtle signs of danger, the shift of shadows on crater walls, the faint echoes that carried across the valleys, the smells carried on the thin lunar wind. He showed them how to hide, to climb, to move in patterns that made them almost invisible. In return, they began teaching him. Their instincts, honed for survival, revealed things he could not have learned alone: hidden crevices, the behavior of lunar predators, even signs of approaching storms of cosmic debris. A silent understanding formed between them, a fragile alliance built not on friendship, but on necessity. Yet despite this growing bond, tension lingered. Every crack of rock, every sudden shift of dust, made the girls stiffen. And he knew, with a cold certainty, that it wasn't just the lunar environment they feared. It was her, the wolf mother. Somewhere beyond the horizon, tracking, waiting, patient and ruthless. As the first pale light of the next lunar cycle illuminated the cave, he stood and looked at them. 6 small, frightened yet resilient figures, each marked by trauma and survival, and each relying on him now. A silent vow formed in his mind: he would protect them. No matter what it took. No matter who came. And somewhere beyond the ridge, carried on the thin lunar wind, a growl answered him, a promise that the challenge had only just begun. The silence of the lunar night was shattered by a distant, echoing roar, vibrating across the crater walls like a warning bell. The human froze mid-step, ears straining. The 6 wolf girls stiffened immediately, tails low, eyes glinting with fear and anticipation. "She's here," the tallest girl murmured, her voice barely audible, a mix of dread and defiance. The scar across her left eye caught the faint luminescent light of the cave, and for a brief moment, she seemed older than her years, a shadow of the predator she was destined to become. The human signaled them to move. "Quickly. Follow me." His voice was calm, but each word carried the weight of command honed through centuries of survival. The girls obeyed instantly, slipping into the shadows like phantoms. He led them along hidden paths through the jagged ridges, testing their awareness and stealth, teaching them to move without leaving tracks. From behind a ridge, the sound came again, a low, guttural growl, followed by heavy, deliberate footfalls. The wolf mother. Ruthless, cunning, and terrifying, her presence was a living threat. The human could feel it through the subtle tremors in the ground, the tension in the air, the way the girls' fur stood on end. "Keep quiet," he whispered. "She's hunting, not chasing. That makes her more dangerous." The girls crouched low, their breathing synchronized with the human's careful steps. He could see their muscles tense, ready to spring, yet controlled, precise. They had learned well, fast. His lips curled slightly. They might be small, young, and exiled, but they were survivors. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the ridgeline above them. The wolf mother's silhouette, massive and menacing, glinted silver in the pale light. Her eyes scanned below, intelligent and merciless. She had tracked them here, to this narrow valley, and her patience was infinite. The human halted, pointing to a cluster of jagged rocks ahead. "Hide. Now." The girls obeyed, melting into the stone formations as if they were part of the moon itself. He could feel her gaze cutting through the darkness, searching for them, testing their movements, reading every instinctive reaction. Time stretched unbearably. Every crack of stone, every whisper of lunar dust underfoot, seemed amplified. The wolf mother's growl rolled across the crater, low and threatening. She was close, closer than ever, and she knew they were hiding. The human calculated quickly. They needed a diversion, something to mislead her, something to buy them time. He pulled a small metallic device from his pack and threw it across the crater. It clanged against rock and sparked, sending a faint light scattering across the ridges. Immediately, the wolf mother's head snapped toward it, nostrils flaring. She bounded toward the sound with lethal precision, muscles rippling, movement fluid and terrifying. The girls took the moment. They moved silently, shadow to shadow, following the human's lead, navigating treacherous cliffs and hidden craters. Each girl's training paid off. The fearless one led the small child, the clever one spotted pitfalls, the scarred leader scanned for pursuit. Their unity, fragile yet growing, was their strength. But the wolf mother was relentless. From above, her roar echoed again, warning and challenge in equal measure. The ground trembled with each step she took, and her scent hit them like a wave, sharp and unmistakable. The human knew it would only be a matter of time before she closed the gap. A sudden shout, a mistake, echoed from one of the younger girls. Instantly, the mother pivoted, eyes glowing, fangs bared. The chase was on. The human grabbed the girl's arm, yanking her behind a jagged boulder. "Move. Don't stop," he barked, pushing them through a narrow fissure only he had scouted before. Rocks scraped against fur, lunar dust stung their eyes, but they kept moving. Every step was a test of agility, every heartbeat a measure of survival. Above them, the wolf mother's shadow moved like liquid death. Her intelligence was terrifying. She anticipated, she adjusted, she hunted not just with strength, but with strategy. The human had faced predators before, but none like this, a creature who was both mother and merciless hunter. Finally, as dawn's first light spilled across the horizon, they reached a high ridge overlooking a hidden valley. Safe, for now, but only barely. The wolf mother's growls echoed from below, reminding them that she was still out there, watching, waiting. The human looked at the 6 girls, faces streaked with dust and sweat, eyes wide but burning with newfound resolve. "This was the first test," he said quietly. "And we survived. But she's not done. She's never done." The girls nodded, understanding in their silence that survival wasn't just about hiding, it was about fighting, thinking, and trusting each other. Somewhere below, the wolf mother's roar rolled across the craters like a storm yet to strike. The hunt had begun in earnest, and the ancient human knew this was only the beginning of a battle that would test every skill, every instinct, and every bond he had forged with these 6 lost girls. The human and the 6 wolf girls had found temporary refuge in a narrow lunar canyon. Shadows stretched across jagged cliffs, creating a labyrinth of stone and dust. For a few hours, they had rest, just enough to catch their breath, but never enough to relax. Every sound, every subtle vibration beneath their feet, reminded them that the wolf mother was out there, relentless and patient. They huddled together in a small hollow, the human checking their supplies, meager food, salvaged water, and a few old signaling devices that might buy them time if needed. He looked at the girls, noting the subtle changes in their expressions, the way fear lingered, the flicker of defiance, and something else, something he hadn't anticipated, doubt. The clever one, the girl with the sharpest instincts, had grown restless. Her eyes darted toward the canyon exit more than once, scanning for a path that wasn't there. The human noticed, but before he could speak, the scarred leader whispered, "She's calling to them. I can feel it." The human froze. The wolf mother's influence went beyond mere presence. Her daughters still carried pieces of her in their instincts, their memories. And now, doubt and loyalty were clashing inside one of them. Hours later, the tension broke. The clever girl moved silently toward the canyon's edge. "I can lead her away," she said, voice low, controlled, but her eyes betrayed the truth. "I can go back to her. She'll listen to me. I can protect you all if I—" Before he could respond, the wolf mother's howl ripped through the canyon, a bone-chilling call that shook the rocks around them. The clever girl flinched, then hesitated, torn between the new family she had found and the blood bond she could never escape. The human stepped in, placing himself between the girl and the canyon's edge. "No," he said firmly, gripping her shoulder. "You don't leave. You survive with us." Her eyes, sharp and calculating, softened for only a moment before hardening again. "You don't understand. She's my mother." Her words faltered, but the intention was clear. She would betray them if it meant appeasing her. The air grew heavier, filled with unspoken threats and fear. The wolf girls pressed closer, sensing the tension, sensing that the fragile trust they had built was about to fracture. The scarred leader growled softly, warning the clever one with a predator's instinct, but the clever one ignored her. The next morning, the betrayal came. In the pale lunar light, the clever girl vanished. No sound, no warning, just gone. The human noticed immediately, one empty spot in their formation, one absence that could mean death. She led her to the ridge, the scarred leader said, realization dawning. She went to her mother. The human cursed under his breath, his mind racing. Every lesson they had learned, every step they had taken together, could be undone by one moment of doubt. "We move," he said. "Now. Before she finds the rest of you." The wolf mother appeared soon after, drawn by her daughter's betrayal. Her eyes were cold, calculating, filled with a wrath that only a mother who had been defied could carry. She moved with lethal precision, circling the canyon, hunting not just the girls, but the human who dared protect them. The remaining 5 wolf girls followed the human through narrow crevices, across unstable lunar cliffs, and through dust-choked valleys. Their movements were synchronized, a silent language of survival, but their hearts weighed heavy with the absence of the clever one. Fear, anger, and guilt mingled in a potent mix, driving them forward, keeping them alive. The human glanced back, his mind forming a grim plan. "We can't fight her head-on," he said. "Not yet. She's too strong, too smart. We need to trap her, slow her down." The scarred leader nodded, her jaw tight, tail lashing. "Then we'll make her chase us. Every step, every move will be calculated. We can't afford mistakes." But even as they prepared, a whisper of doubt lingered in the shadows. Could the clever girl return? Would she bring the wolf mother with her? Or had she truly turned, leaving them all vulnerable? The uncertainty gnawed at them, sharper than any predator's teeth. And somewhere above the ridges, the wolf mother waited, patient and merciless, knowing exactly how to exploit fear, loyalty, and the cracks that existed even among the strongest packs. The hunt had escalated. The fragile bond that had taken days to form was now tested against bloodlines, betrayal, and the relentless force of a mother who would not be denied. The human glanced at the 5 remaining girls, determination hardening in his chest. "We survive. Together," he said. And in the silence that followed, the canyon seemed to shiver with the promise of a confrontation that would leave none untouched. The lunar horizon burned pale orange as the sun's first light crept across the jagged craters. The human and the remaining 5 wolf girls crouched atop a rocky ridge, overlooking a valley that stretched like a trap below them. Silence clung to the rocks, broken only by the occasional hiss of displaced dust. Every step, every breath, had brought them here, the final reckoning with the wolf mother. "She's close," whispered the scarred leader, tail bristling, ears twitching. Her silver fur shimmered faintly in the dawn light, a reflection of both fear and defiance. "I can feel her." The human adjusted the makeshift weapons they had scavenged, metal rods, slings of crystal shards, and remnants of old lunar tech that could spark fire against the rocks. None were lethal against a creature like her, but they could slow her down, force her into traps, and give the girls a chance. From below, a shadow flickered across the valley floor. Massive, sleek, and terrifying, the wolf mother emerged, every muscle rippling with lethal power. Her eyes burned with intelligence and fury. She had found them, not by chance, but by design. Every move they had made, every step through the craters, had led her here. "Stay calm," the human murmured. "Stick to the plan." The girls took positions around him, crouched low like predators themselves. The scarred leader at the front, the timid one and the small child behind her, flanking the human on either side. The silver-coated clever one, the one who had betrayed them earlier, was absent, a wound in their strategy, a reminder that survival could come at a cost. The wolf mother roared, a sound that shook the valley like an earthquake. She leaped forward with terrifying speed, fangs bared, eyes locked on her daughters. The human triggered a flare of sparks from a crystal device, drawing her attention, forcing her to adjust her trajectory. She snarled, pivoting in mid-stride, every movement precise, every instinct deadly. The girls moved. The fearless one darted left, drawing her attention. The timid one slid behind rocks, then back to attack from another angle. The scarred leader lunged, biting a strategic spot on the mother's flank. The human watched, calculating, guiding, reacting. Every strike, every maneuver had to count. One mistake would be fatal. The wolf mother roared in frustration. She had underestimated their coordination. Her daughters, her lost children, were stronger together than alone. And the human, he was not just a protector, but a strategist, a mind she could not predict. Minutes stretched into a tense ballet of claws, teeth, and human ingenuity. Rocks fell, dust clouded the valley, and echoes of growls and shouted warnings ricocheted across the cliffs. Slowly, carefully, the human led her toward a narrow crevice, a trap he had prepared. "Now," he shouted. The girls surged, their combined strength and coordination forcing her into the confined space. The wolf mother growled, snarled, and lunged, but the rocks were ready. A sharp collapse, a cloud of lunar dust, and she was temporarily trapped. Not dead, far from it, but restrained. The girls circled her, watching, breathing heavily, their bodies tense, fur bristling. The human stepped forward. "It's over, for now. You won't harm them again." The wolf mother's eyes burned with fury and intelligence. She wasn't defeated, she never truly could be, but she was forced to retreat. With a final, earth-shaking snarl, she disappeared into the shadows of the craters, leaving behind a silence heavier than any roar. The girls exhaled, collapsing together, exhaustion and relief mingling. The scarred leader turned to the human, eyes filled with gratitude and respect. "We wouldn't have survived without you." He shook his head. "No," he said softly. "You survived because you learned to trust each other. I just guided you." For the first time in months, the valley felt safe. The lunar wind carried a quiet promise. Survival was possible, bonds could be forged, and even the most relentless predator could be outsmarted when courage, intelligence, and unity came together. As the first rays of sunlight touched their fur, the human looked at the 5 wolf girls, tired but alive. Somewhere in the distant ridges, a faint growl echoed, a reminder that the world was still dangerous, that challenges would come again. But for now, they had won. Together. And in that moment, among the jagged craters of the moon, a silent vow formed in all their hearts. No matter what came next, they would survive. Together.